Hello everybody and welcome back to In the Meadow with Kiki. I am so happy to be here and I'm so happy you're here and welcome to another episode. I am recording live from the olive orchard as I have been the past couple of weeks. I mean this whole season pretty much. I'm just so excited to be here with you guys today. I feel like I've been growing so fast when it comes to this podcast and my expression in the online space. Oh my god, whoa. That was crazy. A bunch of birds just flew over me. A bunch of hawks, I think. That was crazy. Hey, guys. But yeah, I feel like I hit a point the other week, which you may have seen on the last episode, where I was feeling a lot of heaviness around the whole video and podcast thing, and I was feeling lots of tenseness around just my nitpicking and just being super hypercritical about the way that I've been recording and how I show up and how I look online and like the way the videos do. And I feel like I'm so grateful for that moment because it allowed me to kind of break through and realize that the only reason I was feeling insecure was because there was still doubt from myself coming within, and the outside analytics are just a mirror looking inwards and how I really truly feel about myself. And I just feel like, yeah, so much growth. And I'm just so excited to show up here in just such a softer and gentler, just playful way and letting it be easy, because recording a podcast every week on video is a huge fucking commitment. And, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a lot of work, and I'm not going to just be so hard on myself and having it needing to come out exactly in a certain way. So yeah, I'm just letting it go. I'm letting it be easy. I'm letting myself just have fun with it and enjoy the process, because I really, really do enjoy it. I get so, we get so stuck on just like the success and like doing it the right way to impress other people that we totally get lost in it, when in reality it's like, why did I start this in the first place? Like I started it because I wanted to make a podcast. I wanted to find a way to express myself online, and now that I'm doing it on video, I feel like it's a whole new level of me just stepping up and stepping into my power and putting myself out there. And so yeah, I'm happy to be here. So let's get into today's episode. Number one, the first thing I have here on my notes is trust yourself and your visions. Trust yourself and your visions. This has been such a huge theme with keeping it moving and keeping your creation flowing and keeping the momentum up, is to not let yourself get so fucking stuck. It's like we can get into such like rhythms of momentum when we're starting to create and we're expressing ourselves and we're really getting the ball rolling, and we feel that momentum, that energy surges. We feel like we're on fire. When we're showing up consistently every day and we're putting a little work in and we're seeing progress, it's like this engine that moves, that turns on fire, right? And I think that when things start to get a little bit more like quote unquote serious, or when you start having to make some bigger decisions, it is so easy to fall into analysis paralysis and get right back into this stagnancy of like stuckness of like, well, what is the right decision? Like, how am I supposed to move? Like, what is the right way to go? And if you haven't heard me say this enough on the show, there is no wrong way. There is no wrong decision. It doesn't exist. Of course, like there's different decisions that will lead to different results, but the only wrong decision is to not take a decision. The only wrong decision is not moving, not taking action, because you got to keep it moving. You got to let it flow. Like when you're in that stagnancy, nothing can come to you because you're not interacting. You're not playing with it. You're not playing with the universe. Like you got to meet the universe halfway. Remember, it's a half and half game. You don't got to do it all alone, but the universe also isn't going to take all the weight for you either. And so you got to meet the universe halfway by showing the fuck up every day, and in whatever way that means. Now, don't get me wrong. Every day is going to look very different. Every day is going to be completely different. Some days you're going to need a rest. Some days you're going to need to just let yourself lay in bed and drink your cacao and, read a book or watch a show or watch a movie. And that is so okay. The difference is when you let your breaks be self-sabotage and you let those breaks actually be numbing and, losing yourself and falling away from everything that you need to be a happy, healthy person. There's a huge difference in energy between allowing yourself to rest and feel good versus hiding and playing small and being scared and frozen. Those are two entirely different energies. And yeah, and so I feel like when it comes to trusting yourself, that's what it is. It's trusting that you're doing the right thing, trusting that you're capable of making this work. I've been listening to James Wedmore's podcast a lot recently. He's this incredible, successful CEO who has a massive company, makes so much money, and he is the host of this podcast that's like, he jokes that it's like the only non-business podcast because he's an extremely spiritual man, and all of his business advice all comes back to just like mindfulness and spirituality and connecting and detachment. And he was talking about this retreat that he hosted in, I forget where it was, Arizona, California, somewhere. Doesn't really matter. But he was saying how the one thing that came from everyone who was in that circle, and like, mind you, he doesn't work with like just up and coming business owners. Like, he works with huge companies and like massive business owners that make tens of thousands of dollars a month, or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, or even millions of dollars a month, which sounds insane, but it happens. It's so real. And so what I mean by this is that he was saying how the one thing that all of these people shared is that they have this belief that they're not capable of managing what they want to create, that they think that they're not capable of doing this shit. And I think that's so funny because it's like, we're looking at those people who are already miles away from these smaller business owners. But the truth is that we all have these fears. We all have this fear of like, am I capable of doing this? Like, am I cut out for this? Like, can I fucking do this? And this fear creeps up of like, well, what if I fail? Like, what if I fuck it up? What if I can't do it? And that just completely just squeezes out all of your energy and throws you straight into that analysis paralysis and that frozen, stuck, stagnant energy. And so that self-trust is so crucial to be able to walk yourself down this path. Eugenia Ognava was this other woman that was on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and she really just blew my mind with how she sees confidence and self-trust is just doing what you say you're going to do. And it sounds so fucking simple, but like, whoa, does it fucking work? Say you're, put yourself in my shoes when you're as a business owner and a podcast host and building this brand. I have some weekly commitments that I follow through with every single week. And if I don't, for example, my newsletter, I've been kind of falling off my newsletter for the past couple of months because there's been so much happening in my life. And a thing as smallest as committing to publishing a newsletter every week and doing the damn thing, or committing to uploading a podcast episode every week and doing the damn fucking thing, what it does to your confidence levels and your self-trust is insane. And the smallest thing is like, oh, I say I'm going to email somebody, you fucking email them. You say you're going to go to the gym, you go to the gym. Now, don't let me be too hard on you, because take me, for example, I have not been going to the gym very, very frequently. And so that's something that I want to, work on to trust myself a little bit more. And it is so simple, but it's so fucking real, just do what you say you're going to do. And you don't have to have high standards for yourself. You can lower the bar a lot more than you might be having it right now. Sometimes we have such high expectations for ourselves that when we fall short, we fall into these little guilt and shame spirals because we feel we're not doing good enough. When in reality, it's like, we're allowed to lower the bar. You can set some really low bar commitments that you actually are capable of following through with, and then just follow through with it, And then more on the more energetic side, it's like, trust your fucking visions. Like, trust these dreams that you have in your heart. Trust them. Trust that the universe is not going to guide you wrong, as long as you just are in touch with your inner being and you're in touch with your heart and where it's leading you to. And allow yourself to be messy. That's another huge topic that's been on my mind recently when it comes to, showing up on this podcast and letting go of this hypercritical, like, super nitpicky perception I have of my work, and just allow it to be messy. Our art and our creations need to evolve, but they'll never evolve when we put them in this like tiny echo chamber and don't let them move and grow. Like, I think that's like the main part of it. When you don't let yourself be messy, and messy doesn't mean that you're not like, still honing in your craft. You still have standards for like the kind of work you want to create, but be messy by just doing the fucking thing. Just show up, create the thing, create the next thing, let your art and your work evolve. When it comes to this podcast, for example, like, I obviously have to keep bringing it back to my own life because I can only speak for myself and my own experiences. And I hope that you guys can learn from my journey. But I remember when I was, really getting in my head about the podcast and how it looked and how it was seen, I had a moment where I was like, well, shit, maybe I'm going to stop doing the video on podcast, because it was hurting my heart. Like, I was mad at myself for not making it as good as I wanted it to be at all times. And I realized very quickly how silly that is, and that the only way that this podcast is going to evolve into exactly what I've always dreamt of is by letting it grow. The only way it can grow is by showing up every single week and doing it again and again and again, doing it differently this week, changing my lens this week. It's like our creations have to grow, and the only way they're going to grow and grow legs and start walking is if we keep working with them, if we keep creating. When it comes to my brand that I'm building, it's like I'm catching myself falling into that analysis paralysis and like wanting it to be fucking perfect from the get-go. Like when I launch, having it be just 1,000,000% perfect. But the truth is that perfect doesn't exist. There is no perfect. The difference is launching a brand or not launching a brand and staying in this paralysis. It's like I can convince myself into just, I'll be thinking about a font that I want to use for a month. And then by the end of the month, I start doubting it. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll try a different style versus just playing with it and just trying it out and seeing if it works and seeing if I like it. So yeah, letting yourself be messy. People aren't looking for curation and perfection. People are looking for realness and connection and humanness, raw human connection. And we're doing our people a disservice by not allowing ourselves to fully express in that authenticity. And so, a massive thing to really remember is that your authenticity and your realness and your rawness is going to attract the perfect people into your life. If you enjoy a certain thing, if you like a certain way of creating or music or art, there's an infinite amount of people out there who like the same thing that you like as well. And they can only find you when you show up in that way. Whereas the other side of the coin is that, yeah, your realness and your rawness might push away some other people, but you want that. You want to magnetize the people that are meant for you and push away the people who aren't. That's what makes us magnetic. You're not magnetic if you're just trying to please everybody. If you're trying to please everyone, it's boring and no one can find you because you're lost in all of the noise. It's like, I even see that when it comes to just like Instagram reel trends, and viral videos and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's like you can follow all the trends constantly to just try to catch up, but you may go viral, but that doesn't mean that necessarily you're finding your most real connections. My viral videos will bring a lot of people into my world, but the ones that make them stick are the talking to camera videos or like more intimate, videos that aren't going to reach the algorithm that much, but that really express who I am as a person. And so don't be scared of that. Don't be scared of, repelling people who are not meant for you, because why would you want them in your world in the first place? Losing followers isn't the worst thing in the world because you're curating it into the people who actually are your fans and who want to show up for you and who want to experience you fully as you are. And that brings me to the other idea that I wanted to talk about that I've been really leaning into through books and podcasts and just spiritual concepts and ideas, and that is detachment. And how the attachment we have to the world around us is what leads us to the most suffering. And how can we live a life where we're just focused on the now, and we're just focused on the expression and the act of creating with detachment. And I know that so difficult, but not even just attachment with our work, but with our relationships and like with the things that happen around us, and how there's this pure essence and this pure energy that you can be in when you are just living as the observer of the reality that you're in versus attaching to these objects and these ideas and these feelings that we identify with. So I can go so deep in this. So I'm trying to figure out a way to talk about this in a more gentle, easier way just to bring it into this podcast today. But, when it comes to creating your offerings, when it comes to creating your art, if we can create with a detachment and create because there's this calling, this inner nudge that we have in our heart that is begging to be let out through our creativity, if we're able to create from that energy and not have this chokehold on well, okay, if I do it this way, then it'll do good and people are going to love it and people are going to buy it or people are going to enjoy it and it has to be done this way or else people aren't going to like it. And once, I release it, it's going to change my life and it's going to become so successful and everything's going to be different. Yes, of course, that can very well happen, but it's so important to be able to kind of take a step back and recognize that we're adding all this pressure and all this heavier energy to something that it doesn't need to have that energy in it. It's like if we can kind of create from a place of well, this is a vision that I have and this is something that I need to create and I wish that it existed in this world, I'm going to do it because I love the process and it feels delicious to be in this magical dance with the universe of creation. And I trust that if I like it, other people are going to like it too, but I'm not doing it because of that. And we're able to kind of have this more of like this loving, joyful, playful dance with the universe and co-creation. It is the most magnetic kind of art that you can fucking create. Whereas like I've noticed, with my podcast, it's like I started hyper controlling it and having all this attachment to like, well, if this lighting is good, then that means it's going to do better. And if this music is put here, then it's going to do well. And like, obviously there's like a balance. Like we do want to be in constant communication with our people and our audience, and we want to be able to grow with them and, connect with them and create things that they want to see. But it's just this energy shift of letting go and falling into flow and this pure magnetic creation energy. And so something that's been really like grounding me into that is just the power of the breath, like just the power of coming back into your breath means that you're coming back into the present moment, and you're not thinking about later or tomorrow or before or yesterday or the how. You're just focusing on right fucking now. And again, like the most cliches in the world, the biggest cliches are the biggest truths because they are just so real, and it's like almost too simple for it to make sense, when in reality it's like if we can just ground ourselves into the now and recognize that our little voice, the little voice that we have in our heads, is not us, that we are not our thoughts, that we can separate ourselves from the incessant chatter that we have in our minds. I've been reading so many books recently and like listening to audiobooks and reading the books, and just all about like that power of this inner voice and the power that we have to detach ourselves from our inner voice. The book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, I am going to do a podcast episode about that soon. But I just want to chat briefly about this idea that he was talking about, where he was saying like, imagine if we could personify our inner voice and just like take it out of our brain and put it next to us on the couch. How fucking neurotic that inner voice would be. We wouldn't be able to stand that person for more than 20 minutes. We would go insane because our mind never shuts the fuck up. And why do we have this feeling that we need to like talk? Like it's such an insane, crazy idea when you really think about it. Like, why do we have to verbalize the thoughts that we have? It's because we are the awareness of those thoughts. We are observing those thoughts. The reason there's a communication is because we are observing it, but we are not those thoughts. And there's this whole idea of negativity bias. We are conditioned, we are hardwired through evolution to look for dangers and to look for the fear and to look for what the scary creatures in the bushes that are about to attack us. We are hardwired to look for everything in the world that could go wrong. So we're never in this idea of like, well, what if it all works out? It's not common to just have your default mode to be like, well, what if everything happens exactly as I want it to? What if it happens better than I could ever imagine it to happen? Like, what if everything works out just perfectly? Like, what if this is a huge success? What if the money does come in? What if the love does come in? We never are thinking about these best case scenarios unless you are, intentional and you have a devotional practice where you are. And I hope you are. If you're in this community, if you're in the Meadow, like I hope you are intentionally making time to set your positive expectations, because our default like subconscious programming, our default computer system that's ingrained and input into our beings is negative. It's always going to look for the negative possible outcome, because somehow our ego and our brain, our psyche, thinks that is how we're protecting ourselves. And that the more we can pick out, the more, worst case scenarios we can imagine, the safer we're going to be. When in reality, that's not actually keeping it as safe. Our comfort zone is a cage. It's literally this cage that we put ourselves in. And it feels comfortable at first until it doesn't. And then it gets real fucking uncomfortable. It's so powerful when you're able to kind of recognize that those thoughts that you have in your mind are not you, and you get to be that awareness of those thoughts. The shift is instantaneous. It doesn't have to be years of personal development and spiritual work to be able to uncover the truths that are going to save your life. Or change your life. It's actually that moment that you notice that those thoughts are not yours. That those thoughts aren't you. They are yours, technically. They are your thoughts, but they're not you. They are not you as a person. They are happening to you. And that inner voice is an inner critic, and it's going to pick at all the reasons that you're not doing good enough, that you're not far ahead enough, that you're too lazy, that you're not productive enough, that you're not doing the right thing, that other people know how to do it but you don't. It's like, it's incessant, and it's neurotic, and it's abusive. It's mean. Our inner critic, that personified person, if you could put it into the room next to you, is fucking mean to you. You would never talk to your loved ones the way that your mind talks to you. And so once we're able to kind of separate that and recognize that those thoughts are happening to us, and we can observe them, and we can let them move through, and we can let them walk through, and then we let them go. And that doesn't mean that we shove down our emotions. That doesn't mean that we shove down these feelings and suppress them, because that's definitely not what you want to do. It's about recognizing what they are and letting them go, and know that you have the power to redirect those negative thoughts and think differently. And it's a practice. It's a chore. It's not something that just happens naturally, but you're able to separate yourself from it and know that you are the awareness and the consciousness that's experiencing that. You are not the negative and anxious thoughts. I think that the simplest way to put all of it is that the path to your greatest peace and fulfillment and magic that this life has in store for you comes through the ability to quiet the noise. Silencing and quieting the noise so that you're able to actually create what you want to create, what your soul wants to create, not what your biases or your trauma or your fears or your insecurities want to create, but what your soul is calling you to create. And you got to do that by silencing the noise. And so that's why, morning practices are so crucial in order for you to get your shit together in your mind right, so that you can take on the day with your energy that you're choosing, because we are running on a program. We run on programs that rule our fucking life, that they're happening in the background. They're happening unconsciously on autopilot. And so being able to recognize when those unconscious thought patterns and habits are rising, and know that we have the power to interrupt those and choose differently, is so fucking powerful. And know that your inner critic isn't right. We have been with our mind and with our thoughts since the beginning of our life, our entire life. And so no wonder we believe that inner voice when it talks shit to us. No wonder we believe it, because it's all we ever hear. But you got to know that that's not the end all be all truth. It's actually just an illusion that you're believing. And so I think that really using the power of the breath is so powerful, because it is this most simple practice where when you notice yourself kind of running a million miles an hour in your head, your little monkey brain chasing every thought that it can, just attaching to these thoughts and holding on to these thoughts, if you can just throughout your day pause and breathe and focus on your fucking breath, instantly you're brought back to the now. Because when you're focusing on the breath, and that's where your consciousness is going into, and that's where your conscious awareness is focusing on, that is where your attention is. It's not in the future. It's not in the past. It's not on the stupid thing that you said to your coworker or the insecurity you have about how you looked in that photo that your friend posted. It's in the now. And obviously, it lasts for so long until it's fleeting and you come back into your brain. But I think that the power of the breath is really magical. And the reason I bring it up is because I think it can be it's so cliche, it's like, oh, just focus on the breath, like focus on the breath, like blah, blah, blah. But truly, these concepts are so much more simple than we make them out to be. We make them seem so much more complicated than they are, when in reality, it's like, nah, girl, just focus on your breath. Like, just breathe deeply, regulate your nervous system through your breath. Like, when you get agitated, when you get triggered, don't let that bring you into a spiral. Like, fucking pause. Take a deep fucking breath and recognize that you have control over your energy, and you're not going to let the outside world dictate how you're going to feel. Of course, we're human. Of course, we all have shit that we got to deal with. We all have family and relationships and dynamics in our life and things that come up and finances and money things. And we have, lots of different things that will inevitably come up in your life no matter what. Even when you have the money in the car, in the house, in the relationship, you're not immune to the world. It doesn't matter what level of success you get to. The world is still spinning, and it's still happening. And so I think that when it comes to, putting all of these things outside of our own power, where it's like, oh, well, once I have my financial stability, then I'll be able to be calm and regulated and happy. Or when I'm in a relationship, I'll be able to relax. Or like, we put all these ideas of like, we'll be happy when that comes or that comes or that comes. When in reality, it's like, no, the world is not going to stop spinning just because you have these things. And so why not learn to regulate your own nervous system now with where you are at now, so that every single new level that you get to, you can always come back to your own peace and your own stillness. I love the analogy of the waves of an ocean. Like the top of the ocean is just so hectic and chaotic and spiky and insane, and the waves are crazy and they'll tumble you, and it's just all this frenetic frenzy energy. Sorry, that's the right word. Whereas the depths of the ocean, your inner being, the deepest parts of you, the real you, is this stillness, the depths of your being, the pure consciousness that is below the surface. We always have access to that. And that's why meditation is so magical. But I hesitate to even say like meditation is the answer, because I think that everyone is different, and you can access these places in different ways. But stillness and breath and just allowing yourself to just go back into your own being is the magic trick, that no matter what's going on in the outside world, you have that power within to transmute the energy and to choose how you want to feel. Well, all right, guys. I think I might leave it there today on this episode. I hope that everything that I expressed today really clicked together and made sense. I think that there's so many ideas in my mind around that topic that I feel like I was maybe struggling a little bit to wrap it all together in a very concise way. But the moral of the story is that you got you. The birth of the Meadow came from the idea that no matter what happens in life, we always have ourselves to go inward with. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what relationships you have, who you're together with, or whatever. You are the only person who's going to have your back to the end of time. From the moment you were born to the moment that you pass away, you're going to have you. And that is so beautiful. We have ourselves. We got ourselves. And you can always cope inwards to ground and to regulate and to really bring yourself back to center. And I think that when it comes to, bringing our creations into reality and going on a creative journey and entrepreneurial journey or whatever path that you're on, there's so many moving pieces and parts that if you're not able to get that piece right, you're never going to be able to find peace in this journey. Even when you get all the success, it doesn't mean that you're somehow going to feel calm once you have $1 million. It's actually quite the opposite. A lot of people get really unregulated when the success starts to come in. And so you got you. Remember, you have your breath, you have your peace, you have your own energy to be able to protect yourself with, so that whatever happens in the outside world, you can see it, you can experience it, and you can let go of it, and you can come back within. And then also, like I said in the beginning of the episode, like, you're allowed to be messy. It's allowed to be your journey, and your own spiritual journey is yours. You don't have to do things the way that I do it necessarily. I'm telling you what works for me, but it's all about awareness, baby. It's all about awareness. So I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I loved hanging out here with you guys, as always. If you enjoyed the episode, you can leave a review either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening to. It means the absolute world. If you have not yet downloaded my Path to Purpose workbook, you can do that in the show notes below. It is an incredible workbook that I created to really help you get clarity on your most aligned and expansive life path. And yeah, I love it. I go back to it all the time to really realign myself and remind myself of like why the hell I'm doing this in the first place. So yeah, I love you guys so much. Please feel free to reach out to me on Kiki's Meadow on Instagram. I love to hear from you guys. As always, please feel free to reach out. All right. Love you guys so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.